Good morning, everyone. My name is Alice Roche, and I am the COO of Charity Digital. Thank you so much to everyone that has already introduced themselves in the chat. I saw someone say they're from a blowy Dover. I'm actually along the Kent coast too in Folkestone, so it's very windy where I am. I'm from Charity Digital, which are the organisers of the event you're attending today. The session is going to be run by Ashley Fontaine, who is a trustee at mental health charity Inspire UK. Hello, Ashley. Ashley's going to share with us advice on engaging Gen Z donors, exploring the fundraising potential that this demographic holds for charities, and what they want from their support in return. Now, just before I hand over to Ashley, I'm going to run through a couple of house rules. So the session is being recorded, and the recording, slides and resources will be made available in the coming days. They will be on demand for 30 days post-event. Closed captions are available, and I will shortly share in the chat how you enable these. During the webinar, feel free to ask lots of questions in the Q&A section, and we will address that at the end. And feel free to share any other comments, experiences, or top tips in the chat section. And please do feel free to keep introducing yourself. It's wonderful to see where everyone is joining us from today. And finally, if you do encounter any sound or any image issues, please let us know in the chat and we'll do our best to get the session running back as normal as possible. I'm just hoping my internet stays up because of the power cuts, but I'm going to pass back to Ashley now and have a brilliant session.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Alice. So hello everyone. Great to see so many of you here today. Thank you again so much for joining, taking time out this morning, despite the weather interferences, to really join this important session, if I do say so myself. As Alice said, we'll be exploring particularly how to attract and retain the most charitable audience at the moment, who are known as Gen Z, aka the generous generation. So, a little bit about me before we begin. You already know my name is Ashley, but I am a social impact enthusiast, proud Gen Zer. Love to know if there are any other Gen Zers in the building. Do share an emoji, drop a wave, just to let us know. I know the general consensus for Gen Z is anyone born between 1997 right up until 2012 for reference. But yes, my role in the charity space right now is as a trustee at Inspire UK, the charity, and I primarily help to bring the charity's mental health mission, which is to help anyone access the support they need to life by really drawing on my marketing and communication expertise. So my background is in project program management and strategic communications. I've worked across the VCSE, B2B and youth sectors, just designing, directing and delivering loads of impactful projects, programs and campaigns. But overall, I am extremely passionate about social impact, especially where young people are concerned. And I have previously worked with the likes of Street Games, UK, Mind, and of course, Charity Digital on like-minded projects. So looking at the agenda for this session, it will be split into kind of 4 core parts. We'll kick off with an introduction to today's topic by looking at the wider context, so zooming out a little bit. Then we'll move on to the meat of the topic, which is how charities can, 1, attract, and then 2, retain Gen Z donors and fundraisers, whilst bringing in some real-world case study insight and practical tips from my lived experience of being a Gen Zer who works and actively engages in the charity sector. And then finally, we will wrap up with some key takeaways and resources. So let's begin with a brief introduction. Context is super important to me because I really believe that without it, words and actions really lack meaning. So with that being said, I want to zoom out and preface today's topic with a reflection on the why before moving into the how. So essentially thinking about why should charities care about investing in Gen Z when it comes to fundraising and donation efforts. The answer to this question all really boils down to the current state of the charitable giving space, namely the challenges that charities are facing today. So for one, the cost of living crisis is, as we know, having a massive impact on charitable giving. Many supporters have simply been unable to donate as much thanks to inflation, massive increases in general outgoings, from anything from energy to food. So many factors have been affected, and that really does leave the average donor questioning if they're able to continue to give to charities. Another point is, although on the rise, donation levels are still yet to recover to pre-pandemic levels, and this is also having an effect on charities being able to survive versus thrive. And as a result, I know that many charities have been forced to make do with less as they cater for more need. There is also, thirdly, an increased pressure on fundraising teams as we're currently in a highly competitive giving landscape. So charities need to find a way to really stand out amongst the crowd and create memorable campaigns. And finally, for my last point, I just really want to highlight that I know that year after year, it seems like there are more and more ways, namely media platforms, that charities can use to deliver giving services. And although a great opportunity to maximize fundraising, garner more donations, it can feel quite overwhelming for some charities, especially as donor behavior is in a constant state of flux. But there is a silver lining, you'll be happy to know. And that silver lining for me is Gen Z. Gen Z can help. So Generation Z, Generation Z, a couple of different synonymous titles there, but essentially describes those born from 1997 up until 2012. So anyone currently aged between the ages of 26 up until 12 years old. They are revolutionizing the workings of the world, and this is having a knock-on effect on the charity sector, more specifically in relation to today's topic, the giving space. Now, what impact are they having? Well, Gen Z are known to be the most woke generation yet. For one, they are pioneers of youth voice, so very much enjoy free speech like no other generation before, calling out injustice, using their voices to encourage positive change, just like charities, making them some really strong allies. Gen Z are also driven by social impact and advocacy. More than just keyboard warriors, Gen Z have big hearts. They are purpose driven and actively work to enact social impact by championing many charitable causes. So, how I like to see it is when Gen Z join hands to do good, there really is no limit to the power they possess, which is great news for the third sector as they inadvertently act as charity ambassadors, influencers, and fundraisers. On another note as well, Gen Z spending power in the UK particularly is on the rise as more of them move into the workforce. So this is actually translating into charitable giving as well, as I know according to Blackboard in one of their recent research reports, young people are giving more now than pre-pandemic. And that was a research report done in 2023, so highly topical. And go even further, actually, for me as well, when I was looking at a lot of the research around spending power, I came across another report which is commissioned by the new fundraising platform GiveStar, and it highlights that 82% of 18 to 24-year-olds in particular have donated to charity over the last year, with those giving averaging £127.10 each. So they're saying that currently that is 34% more than their parents' generation, which they reference Gen X, so anyone aged between 43 to 58. And that is despite the cost of living crisis and the financial stresses that young people are currently up against. So this clearly shows that Gen Z are extremely charitable with their money. And when Gen Z care about the cause, they really do support through donations. And finally, Gen Z are also known as the internet generation. Always get covered up with my words there. They are known as the internet generation, the iGen, the digital natives. There's so many terms bounding around for Gen Z. But as the third sector really continues to evolve with the digital demands of the world, this demographic will be the most receptive audience to the likes of charity innovation. So online donations, donating in cryptocurrency, and virtual fundraising events are just a few examples. So now we've looked at the why charities should invest in Gen Z, particularly within the giving space, and what makes them the most charitable audience at the moment. We're going to move on to what you've come here really to talk about is the how, to listen to how you can first attract them. And that is how to bring in buy-in Gen Z donors and fundraisers. Before diving into fundraising, campaign and creation, like with every kind of marketing action plan, you need to start by understanding your target audience. So in this case, it's all about making a Gen Z audience profile within the context of fundraising and leaning into the identification stage, looking at as well the qualification stage of the charity giving cycle. So charities really need to think about what makes this demographic give and how they like to give. So analyzing their psychology, their behavior, noticing any patterns really is your first initial step. So looking at the Gen Z, when you have a Gen Z audience profile within this context, recent research has shown that when it comes to the charity giving space, this demographic is one, more likely to donate to charities and fundraise for them if they have done some charity cause research. If they also believe that a charity is authentic, transparent about its impact data, and if they are taken in by a charity campaign's gripping storytelling. Number two, this demographic are also more likely to give, and that covers fundraising, donations. But yeah, they are more likely to do that as well by commonly making donations through social giving. So that is social media-based donations. They also like to give through flexible giving, kind of like monthly subscriptions. And they also are most likely to give through friendly, mobile-friendly donations. So now knowing these kind of Gen Z giving trends, you can really create an audience profile and take their interests, psychological motivations, and behaviors into account during the planning stage of a fundraising campaign to ensure you are really able to attract, engage, and get buy-in from them. And social listening tools can really help you to keep on top of this and track them constantly. Now, we don't have enough time to go through each trend, but I want to specifically draw attention to the ones I feel are a little bit less self-explanatory, and in my opinion, are often the trickiest for charities to get right and be successful in when it comes to attracting Gen Z donors slash fundraisers. So I'm going to touch on social giving and gripping storytelling and really share how you can effectively leverage them by showing two case studies. So first off, social giving. With Gen Z being, as you know, tech savvy, a lover of communicating online, it's no surprise that social media is the space that they primarily inhabit. But where does that actually leave charitable giving, and how can charities leverage this information for fundraising and donation efforts? So introducing social giving, also known as social fundraising. You might have heard that term as well. But put simply, social giving is fundraising that is powered by social connections. And over the last years, it has really evolved. So the term originated from peer-to-peer and crowdfunding campaigns. So as in any type of giving that occurs due to a social connection. However, the social aspect of social giving now more commonly refers to social connections that exist on social media platforms like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. So, for example, rather than just any peer-to-peer or crowdfunding campaign, social giving could be a challenge fundraiser using Facebook's inbuilt fundraising tools or a live streaming campaign hosted on TikTok. Now, in relation to Gen Z's usage of social media for charitable causes, according to the giving platform Classy, which is a GoFundMe company, 40% of Gen Z donors learn about new causes from social media, so mainly YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. And within this, it is actually social giving that this demographic especially leans into for online donations, but also for sharing their fundraising journeys. So the key features of social giving that remain attractive to Gen Zs are short, sharp visuals, donation stickers, the power of hashtags, and the easy to navigate accessibility of Linktree, where charities can house all of their links about charity support under a single URL. So charities need to utilize these platforms and their inbuilt features that enable social giving to connect with the younger generation and enhance their fundraising and donation efforts. So looking at a case study, one widely known example of a charity that has used social giving successfully is the British Red Cross with their uptake of TikTok. As video content is a smash hit with Gen Z, TikTok is a Gen Z's paradise. The British Red Cross leveraged this by creating a presence on the platform using short, sharp visuals before taking advantage of TikTok's inbuilt donation sticker feature, which is an interactive button that audiences can tap into directly onto the platform and be transported to donation Tiltify without leaving the app. So really, really good there in terms of a feature. So from first aid tips to mental health advice, the charity quickly found the perfect balance between providing help whilst keeping content lively, amusing, and easy to consume. And coupled with its fundraising strategy to share the impact of received donations, how audiences can make an impact through donating, this ticks a lot of boxes that attract Gen Z to charities. So a thriving charity is based on continually finding innovative ways to reach audiences and inspire people to give. And the British Red Cross did exactly that with the Gen Z generation through TikTok. So their approach resulted in raising over £90,000 in vital funds within a year or so of being on the platform. And I always love to draw out a couple of the little images here. I particularly love the one on the bottom right corner, which they kind of revamped and took inspiration from the recent Barbie film, again staying on trend, connecting with themes and just topics that Gen Z like to engage with. And they spoke a lot about how in their current charity shop front, they are taking inspiration from Barbie at the moment, encouraging people to come down and bring their donations, but also purchase, of course, any of the items there. And I know thrifting at the moment is super, super big on the Gen Z kind of platforms. So this was a strong contender for me, along with the other elements that they really did take into consideration and bring to light on the platform. Now, when it comes to gripping storytelling, Gen Z as a whole really do lead with their hearts when it comes to giving. Charities need to tell a story that's gripping, one that immediately grabs their attention because it captures their passions and speaks to their values. The key is to create fundraising campaigns with messaging that really resonates and builds an emotional connection with them. So consider the language, tone, and delivery of your fundraising campaigns, plus its characters, those being the faces in them. If your storytelling is gripping, a simple call to action such as donate now can work, or in some cases, as you'll see in my next slide, you won't actually even need one, as the messaging will speak for itself and really capture Gen Zers. Now, an example of a charity for me that effectively used gripping storytelling to connect with a youth audience is Minds 2022 Speak to Us campaign. Notably, this was first and foremost a brand/cause awareness campaign, but their intentionally gripping storytelling helped to also make it an effective fundraising appeal. So a real two-in-one approach. But how and why did this work in attracting Gen Z? Well, for one, market research shows that 73% of Gen Z support mental health messaging in ads, and the campaign delivered its message through an expressive spoken word poetry format. The aim was to spotlight the statistic that 2 in 5 young people say they do not have the words to express how they are feeling when they are struggling with their mental health, and encouraging people to get support, with the tagline effectively conveying this via direct address. So that is, if this speaks to you, speak to us. Additionally, Mind also really thought about the characters delivering the story, which I really appreciated. So they used fellow Gen Z musicians such as Lola Young and a Welsh band as well within the campaign, which is a band full of Gen Zers. Adwave, I believe they're called, and enabled them to foster a relatable connection with a Gen Z audience. Now, in terms of the results, as I said, this wasn't intentionally supposed to be a fundraising campaign, but it did end up turning into one. Particularly for me, from what I noticed, I saw a lot more young people within and beyond my network online actively saying that they were going to become donors and fundraise on Mind right after this campaign. So lots of user-generated content where Gen Z shared their fundraising journey in response to the hashtag. So this campaign goes to show how strong cause awareness can boost donors and fundraisers without a donate or support us CTA. Now, the final part of the session is an insight into how charities can retain Gen Z donors and fundraisers. So looking at how to maintain those long-term giving relationships with Gen Z. On the whole, when it comes to donor retention, the fundraising cycle model is a great foundational framework for charities to work from. So the first four stages, I would say, really hone in on attracting and engaging the donor, and then the final two stages being really the entry into donor retention. Of course, this is a cycle, so steps will be repeated to maintain robust and long-term giving relations. But when it comes to Gen Z, strong stewardship, which is step 6, is especially critical. So after making a donation, Gen Z want to hear about how their financial aid is making a direct impact and a difference, and what they can do to continue to support the cause, whether via, further donations or voluntary work. Because Gen Z, one, truly value where they put their money when it comes to social impact, big hearts, big givers. And two, not only are they currently the most generous generation in donating their money to charity, they are also the most generous when it comes to giving their time. Now, Enthuse notes that charities need to be mindful of gaining insights into Generation Z for stewardship, and this is the age group that they are likely to have least data on, so securing marketing opt-ins are an important route to understanding more about them. And the first great step, which I like to reflect on, is really actioning and thinking about a Gen Z donor stewardship plan that includes a feedback loop and various approaches for staying in touch, post donations, and fundraising efforts. In the next slide, I will share a few examples of charities who I think have really thought about how they can turn Gen Z donors and fundraisers into lifetime ones. So first we have Winston's Wish. Now they have a youth team that includes youth ambassadors who help them to create content, spread the word, and support fundraising events that work to reach and help bereaved children, young people, their families, and the professionals who support them. There's also Link Age Southwark, which they have a young fundraisers program, which I absolutely love, where each year they seek Gen Z volunteers to support the delivery of a range of community fundraising events. So that comes to everything from welcoming guests, helping with stands at events, baking cakes to be sold at events, and helping to promote events locally. There's also Make-A-Wish, which have cleverly put together a digital youth fundraising pack. And this is done to encourage Gen Z to help the charity connect with their peers and obtain donations. So the pack includes around 17 pages of various creative ways that young people can fundraise and keep track of their achievements. There is also the BBC Children in Need, the Sir Terry Wogan Young Fundraiser of the Year Award, which again, another amazing initiative and touch point. And it's a chance to celebrate and say thank you to the young people who support BBC Children in Need through fundraising efforts and make a big difference to children's lives across the UK. The winner receives an award at a presentation filmed by the BBC and shown as part of the Children in Need Appeal show. And lastly, one of my favorites as well is Young Minds. So they have hashtag Hello Yellow Day, and that happens every World Mental Health Day. And the charity encourages young people to become part of the community of Hello Yellow, donate and raise vital funds to support their youth. So we have gone through quite a few different things. So I thought it's always good to give a bit of a wrap up. But essentially, no matter the size, charities across the UK, I believe, really need to invest in attracting and retaining today's Gen Zers. With their current projected spending power, engagement with technology, and passion for changing the world, they play a significant role in the giving sector and where it's set to head in the future. Now, I've heard as well that there are 4 Ps of fundraising, such as passion, persistence, philanthropy, and people focused. And I really feel like these exemplify what it takes to attract and retain Gen Z for charitable giving. And also, just thought I'd share a couple of helpful resources. Of course, we're going to start with Charity Digital, who are always putting out helpful pieces of content. I have actually done a previous webinar, which was about how to just engage Gen Z, the younger generation in general for charities, not specific to fundraising or donations, but very much just overall how charities can engage with young people. There's also the Young Trustees movement. They are an amazing organization. They really push more young people to get into trusteeship and really motivate them. That's one of the kind of initiatives that I followed, and it really inspired me to become a trustee. There's also Amplify, and they're all about kind of pushing youth voice training, providing a lot of different tips and resources there. And also, I mentioned as well, social listening tools can be a great way for charities to really keep on top of Gen Z trends, their interests, their giving kind of behaviors. And TikTok is a great tool, especially as well as Google Trends. So yes, I just want to say thank you so much for joining, and thank you for listening to my presentation. And I'll hand over back to Alice. I think we've got time maybe for some questions.
Thank you so much, Ashley. That was really, really helpful. Yes, we do have questions and lots of people interacting in the chat, so that's really wonderful to see. Thank you. So we will go to some of the questions. So one, I think there was two actually on more about social listening tools, and if you have any examples of those.
Oh, yes, definitely. So apart from Google Trends, which I mentioned, and definitely TikTok, I think any social media platform in general can be a great social listening tool. I generally really recommend TikTok, particularly because if your strategy kind of involves reaching young people, but you have, limited resources, you also might not have much TikTok confidence or know-how. I think it's worth downloading the app anyway, to do some social listening. Gen Z are curious species, they're subversive, progressive, but sometimes difficult to pin down or define. So just keeping an eye on trending content can really get you more familiar with their interests, their humor, what causes they're passionate about, which famous figures they warm to, and those they actually can shun as well. So it's going to really help you to better engage with them through channels as well. So yeah, definitely TikTok, and definitely recommend Google Trends. I've used both of those, particularly myself.
Great, thank you so much. And then we had one that was upvoted multiple times, actually. So, one that multiple people are curious about hearing. So, we've struggled to attract Gen Z donors, and we don't feel that adult disability is perhaps sexy enough for Gen Z. So, do you think that Gen Z show a preference for certain popular causes?
Oh, yeah, that is a good question. I think they definitely do. Like, I know when it comes to when I was doing some research, mental health was definitely a big cause out there that is definitely on top. I know as well, anything to do with kind of animals, animal loving, Gen Z really, really love and warm to. But I think for me, what I've kind of noticed, as long as you're authentic and just transparent in the cause that you're pushing, Gen Z will begin to warm to it. It's building your online presence, getting it out there, and using some really kind of strategies like taking inspiration from, what the British Red Cross did, something that can seem, like you said, not the most kind of necessarily drawing in for Gen Z, but I think it's the way the tools that you use to communicate it that will really make the difference and bring people in. So yeah, definitely think about that.
Great, thank you. And then we've got so many. What do you think makes, I guess this kind of follows on, what do you think makes Gen Z trust a charity enough to donate, as people are increasingly critical of how charities use their money, as they should?
Oh, yes. What makes them donate and trust? I really think it's about showing your impact data. I think for me, that's a lot of what I do within currently my work within program management and analyzing some of the in-program impact data that is impacting kind of what we're working with young people. And I think it's being upfront with what you're currently working on and showing that data. I think Gen Z, we're not, I would like to say that we are, I hate to use the word woke, but we are woke. We won't fall into the trap of thinking, oh yeah, you're going to say like, we're doing this, but where is the data? Where is the
Where's
evidence?
the evidence? Yeah.
Yeah, so without that, I feel like there is no way to kind of build that trust. We're constantly researching, we're constantly online, we're constantly exploring new causes. And I think that that is the way to really think about how you can really get them to buy in. So yeah, have a think about that. There's so many ways I can answer that question as well. I feel like there's loads of things that
There are so many good questions as well. We definitely won't get to them all, so I'll do one more, and then we will move on. But just remember that you can also reach out to Ashley on the virtual networking platform. So we'll just do one more, Ashley, which is, can you expand more on the power of hashtags, please?
Oh, yes, definitely. So, in terms of hashtags, they can be super, super helpful. So, as I spoke about with the Mind Charity campaign, which was hashtag Speak to Us, I think it's all about creating something that's catchy, that very much kind of speaks to your campaign and can really draw people in. I think Speak to Us was quite an interesting one because I think it was a way of getting people in, not necessarily saying that, we want you to donate, but we just want you to speak to us. Like we're open to listening to you. And I think they really did touch in and tap in on that, the value of the youth voice there, saying that, we hear you. Please come and talk to us. Please come and interact with us. We can help you. So just thinking as well about how you can really tailor those hashtags and using them multiple times, keep using them, keep making them kind of attracted to your brand. They'll be basically attached to your brand. So just make them a part of your identity. The more you use it, the more it will catch on. And of course, as well, it depends on how powerful and impactful it is. I really love Speak to Us. I really love, again, like Hello Yellow for Young Minds. So different kind of strategies there, but essentially they always use the kind of same thing about picking in on youth voice and what they really care about when it comes to those hashtags.
Thank you, Ashley, for this really informative session and for all of our attendees as well. It's been really, really well attended. So you can actually rate the session by selecting the stars underneath the session title. All resources from the session will be made available by the end of the week, and it will be also on demand on this platform for 30 days. So the next session is actually on in 15 minutes time, and it will be led by CAF Sarah Main on funding for resilience. So yeah, during the break, do feel free to go onto the networking platform, reach out to Ashley, check out the partner booths or our very own Charity Digital booth if you've never heard of us and you don't know what we do as a registered charity ourselves. And of course, please do connect with us on LinkedIn or X, and you can use the Charity Digital Summit hashtag. But thank you so much for everybody, and sorry we didn't get around to all the questions. And yeah, thank you, Ashley.
No worries. Thank you all. Yeah, please do reach out to me. Any questions that I haven't been able to answer. I'm more than happy to speak more about them and give some more insight. But yeah, thank you so much for joining. Really appreciate it.